Hey, good afternoon, class, and welcome back. Welcome to week number 2 of Introductory Psychology. I hope I'm not offending anybody by my OU sweatshirt. I know we were here at OSU OKC, but I'm a student at OU and I teach at OSU, so it's kind of a weird spot to be in. But got lots of love for both schools. But today, actually, this weekend is homecoming weekend for the University of Oklahoma, and I was just on campus, so came back and. Anyways, hopefully nobody's offended by this. I think some of you have even expressed wanting to transfer there at some point. So, hey, works out. Got lots of love for both institutions. I think I can see beyond the rivalries and respect both schools and both teams. Let's see. So, welcome back. First of all, thank you for making this first week really enjoyable. I absolutely loved reading your discussion posts and getting to know each of you a little bit more by some of the facts you shared, things about your lives and yourselves, and I can already say now that I'm very excited about the diverse set of minds and perspectives and experiences that we have coming into this class. I think it's really important in psychology because, it is a study of humanity, of us, of, what it means to be human. And I think it's important to have a lot of different perspectives on what that means because it doesn't look the same for everybody else. I'm actually recording this on Friday. I know, so it really doesn't matter to you, but I think as of now, I'm still reading through some of your discussions and all that, but so far I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying your response papers as well. Keep those coming. Your response paper, of course, is due on Sunday night, so, you have some time to work on that, but just know that, we're going to have one of those every week, so it's good to get in a habit of working on your discussions, working on your readings and your response papers. So I also wanted to clarify something about the response paper. I noticed with some of you wrote your response papers based on the chapter you read. And for this week, that's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not upset about it. I wasn't going to make you redo it or anything like that. But just know that your response papers are not tied to the textbook. They're tied to supplemental information that I give you that most of the time is related to the textbook, but I want to give you a different perspective or a different topic or a different thing to think about outside of the textbook. So in future response papers, I'm going to want you to base your response papers entirely off of the TED Talks or the videos I share. So keep that in mind. So that's kind of a recap for week 1. Week number 2, we're jumping right back into, we have 2 chapters to read. You have chapter 3, which is sensation and perception. This is a really big chapter. It's some more anatomy. It's covering all of our 5 senses plus a few extra that maybe you weren't aware of that you have, but you use all the time. Kinesthesis, vestibular sense of direction, all kinds of senses that we don't add into those big 5, but are very important as well. You're going to learn about. So, a lot going on in chapter 3. You're going to be able to, by the time the chapter's over, distinguish between sensation and perception. They are related constructs, but they are sort of 2 sides to the same coin. They are different. So sensation is when your sensory organs come into contact with stimuli, like when light hits your eyes. But perception is what you make of that. So, for example, just looking at 2 people can visualize and look at a piece of chocolate cake and see the same thing. They have the same sensation. However, their perception may be entirely different. One person maybe is dieting and looks at that chocolate cake and go, oh my gosh, that's temptation. I don't want to be near chocolate cake. I hate chocolate cake right now. Maybe some disdain towards chocolate cake. But somebody who is maybe, who isn't dieting, isn't thinking about those things, maybe they look at chocolate cake and perceive it as, oh wow, tasty treat. I really wanted something tasty right now, and this works out. So it's totally different. Same experience, same sensation, but a very different perception. You'll also get a nice overview of the anatomy of the eyes. If you've taken anatomy before, this is probably going to be pretty familiar, but if you haven't, it's a nice overview. A lot of the major parts of the eye, the iris, your cornea, the different layers of the eye, your pupils, all that good stuff. It's just a real basic overview of the eye. You'll also look at some different theories about how we perceive colored vision. We'll also look at some organizations of visual perceptions, how our mind sort of makes sense of all the information that we come into contact with. Then we're going to switch gears and look at the ear. The ear is much more than this. This is just the outside of your ear. It's called the pinna. It's the outside. It's just a flap of cartilage and skin, but there's a lot more of the ear as we go deeper in the middle and the inner ear. Let's see. And finally, a couple more things. You're also going to look at chemical senses like touch, skin senses, kinesthesis, touch, pain, temperature, pressure, things like that. Kinesthesis sense, our sense of balance, vestibular sense, are also related to balance. So, you're going to learn about some things that you use all the time, but maybe you never use the words, kinesthesis, vestibular specifically. And then finally, this chapter is going to wrap up by looking at ESP, extrasensory perception. So you're going to look at that and why psychologists might be skeptical about that. I personally am pretty skeptical of ESP. Unfortunately, if you're not, that's fine. But just know that most scientists are. However, I will issue a challenge to you. If there is anyone watching this video right now who believes in ESP, please take a moment and raise my hand. Whoa, what happened there? Something just happened. No, I'm just kidding. I just did that on purpose. But anyways, it's one of my favorite jokes about ESP. May have fallen on deaf ears. I can't tell. So anyways, humor me and laugh about it. Just kidding. You don't have to. All right. So that's chapter 3. A lot about sensation and perception, some more anatomy, really good stuff here, stuff that's going to come up again. So it's important that you're, taking good notes, asking questions when they come up. Then you're going to switch gears and look at the chapter on consciousness, chapter 4, a really cool chapter. It's short, covers a lot of stuff, but it's just a nice overview of this topic called consciousness. And a way of thinking about consciousness is awareness. I know that's a very simplified way of thinking about it, but it's awareness of self and awareness of your surroundings, what's around you. So we're going to be talking about conscious awareness, and there are many different states of conscious awareness. Right now, as I present this video, I am conscious, I'm aware of myself, I'm aware of my surroundings, but that changes under certain conditions. When I'm tired, when I'm sleepy, depending on what food or substances I consume. If I have a cup of coffee after this, maybe my awareness has spiked. If I enjoy an adult beverage with a friend later on this evening for a Friday evening, maybe that could change my consciousness. The food I eat, the food we all eat, has an effect on consciousness. So what we put into our body affects our awareness. And it does not just illegal drugs, both legal and illegal, both food, all the things that we consume affect our consciousness. So you're also going to look at some different states of consciousness. You're going to look at hypnosis, meditation, biofeedback. Those are really, really neat research behind that. A lot of my research as a doctoral student is on the topic of meditation, so I think this stuff is fascinating. We're also going to jump into the DSM. The DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. One sec, I actually might have a copy to show you. I should have prepared for this. Sorry, I can't find my copy. I normally have a copy of the DSM laying around. Sorry, I was going to share that with you, but I can't seem to find it, and maybe I'll share it in another video. But the DSM is a book used by insurance companies to standardize the diagnostic process of mental disorders, of mental illness. And we're going to jump into that, talking about that for the first time during Chapter 4, because we're going to look at sleep disorders, which can be found in the DSM. They're a very specific category of disorders, like insomnia, narcolepsy, sleep apnea, having night terrors. That's an example of sleep disorders. So we're going to look at that. We're also going to look at substance abuse disorders, which is a really interesting topic. I think a fascinating topic, something that a lot of people think, really want to study when they get into psychology. So hopefully you'll find this interesting. We're going to talk about the different types of drugs. And when I say drugs, I do not mean just illegal drugs. The most widely consumed drug in the entire world is perfectly legal, and probably many of you have used it today. Caffeine. Myself, I've had several cups of coffee. I'm going to have a cup of tea in a minute. All of us, not all of us, I shouldn't say that. So a lot of us start our days with coffee. It's perfectly legal, but it affects consciousness, and sometimes in a good way, and sometimes not always in a good way. But a lot of the worst, alcohol, for the most part, is legal. I mean, as long as you're 21, you can consume it. Tobacco, very legal, as long as you're 18. So these are not illegal substances. We're not just referring to illegal substances. We're going to talk about all kinds of drugs. We're going to talk about uppers, downers, laughers, and screamers, otherwise known as depressants, things that slow down our nervous system, like alcohol, stimulants, things that speed it up, kind of like cocaine, methamphetamines, things like that. And then, hallucinogenic drugs that change our sensory experiences. So kind of going back to chapter 3. Those drugs include, in small doses, THC found in marijuana is considered a hallucinogenic substance. And I know some people will give me some pushback about that, but, THC, the research shows that THC sort of changes our relationship to sensory experience. You hear about people who enjoy food more, enjoy music more. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're hallucinating, but their sensory experiences are altered because of the substance. But there are very powerful hallucinogenic drugs like LSD, like psilocybin found in mushrooms that are very powerful and do actually lead to hallucinogenic experiences. So there's small dose hallucinogens, there's very powerful hallucinogenic drugs. So we're going to learn about all three types. Very interesting topic. So you should walk away having a pretty good idea of the difference between the three and also the dangers as well. There are a lot of downsides to all of these drugs. So I hope, take it with a grain of salt that these things are not something to mess with, legal or illegal. Be careful about what you put into your body. I just can't express that enough. Okay, so that's the reading for this week. I also wanted you to be aware that your exam is also, exam number 1 is open. Exam number 1 covers chapters 1 through 4. And it's about 12 to 13 questions each, so you're going to see 50 questions total in the exam. There's no time limit. It's multiple choice. The questions are designed to be application-based, meaning I don't really care if you know the definition. I care that you can apply it in a real-world setting. So you're going to see examples of the definitions and constructs, but they're going to happen in like a scenario. You're going to be given a scenario and tell me, what definition best describes this scenario, for example. So that's the type of questions you'll see. Also, if you go into quizzes, I have some practice quizzes for you to take for each chapter. They are not required. They are not for a grade, but they are there for you to practice. They're kind of just a preview of what kind of questions you might expect to see on the exam. They're open. All of them are open. Feel free to take them. Feel free to take them multiple times if you like. But if you want to have some practice, I highly recommend completing these. So looking at our schedule, our exam, it'll be open. I'll open it now as I'm recording. After I finish recording this video, I'll open it up and it'll be open until the 5th of November. That is a Monday night. And it'll be open until 11:59 p.m. And it is very, very important that you complete the exam at the right time. Please do not wait till 11 o'clock to take your exam. That exam will close if you are finished or not. If you're still taking it at 11 o'clock, and let's say you're halfway through at 11:59, if you're not done, it will cut you off and you will not get those points. So please, 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 it's okay if you wait until Monday to take the exam to make sure you're prepared, but please literally don't wait until the last minute. I really don't want to have to. I don't want to get a bunch of emails on, that font next Tuesday. Oh, I waited to the last minute. You have a lot of time. You have time to study. You have time to ask me questions. You have time to ask your peers questions. So I really expect you to utilize that. So we do have an exam up and ready. It's due on the 5th at 11:59 p.m., but that's not the only work we have. Remember, this is an 8-week class, so we've got a lot going on every week. We also have a discussion post that is up. The discussion, I want you, to make sure, pretty much follow the same steps you did this last week. This first discussion was great. I really, really enjoyed your discussions this first week. This week we're going to talk about your sleep schedule. So think about your sleep schedule. Read the discussion prompt I have. Answer it. It's about your personal sleep schedule. How much sleep are you getting? What could you do to be getting more sleep? And then respond to 2 of your peers by Friday. Remember, you need to get your initial post in by Wednesday to get full credit. So there's that, and then there's also a response paper that I want you to watch. Chapter 2 is about consciousness and we talk about substance abuse disorder. We talk about addiction in this chapter, and there's a really cool YouTube video I found several years ago when I was a high school teacher about the topic of addiction, and it's a really new, I think, an interesting way of looking at addiction. So I want you to watch this short video. It's only 5 minutes long on addiction. Watch it, and then complete response paper 2 by by Sunday. So here's the heads up. One more time. Read chapter 3 and 4. Complete your discussion by Friday. Complete response paper by Sunday. And your exam is due the following Monday on the 5th. So I know that's a lot, but I also know you're more than capable of doing this if you manage your time wisely. If you have any questions, any issues about the exam, anything at all related to the course, content, as you're reading, you don't understand something, shoot me an email. I'll try to respond as soon as possible. But again, please do not wait until the last minute to take the exam. Give yourself at least a couple of hours. There is no time limit, but the exam should at least take you about an hour, hour and a half at least. So, yeah, I think I've covered everything. I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of your discussions for week 1, your response papers for week 1, and I'm already excited for week 2, getting into that. So hope everyone has a great week. I look forward to reading everything and talking to you all next week. Okay, take care. Bye.